It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our fireside chat with two trailblazers in our community, Senator Tammy Duckworth and Senator Andy Kim. Senator Duckworth represents Illinois in the U.S. Senate and is the first Thai-American woman and the second of 3 Asian American women to serve in the Senate. She currently serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee, the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, and the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Senator Andy Kim represents the state of New Jersey and serves on several influential committees, including the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, and the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Thank you for being here. And our moderator, Vicki Nguyen, serves as NBC News Chief Consumer Investigative Correspondent and co-anchor of NBC News Daily. Not only is Vicki known for her powerful reporting on consumer safety and anti-Asian hate, she's also a newly minted New York Times best-selling author for her memoir, Boat Baby, that just came out in April. Thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. So we got the rock stars on stage. They actually do need to get to a committee meeting for their day jobs as United States senators. So we are going to keep things moving this morning and get everybody all woken up and ready to go. That was a wonderful panel right before us. First, I would just like to say what an honor it is to be here with both of you.
Thank you.
We've talked before, Senator Duckworth. I last talked to you before you got this promotion, Senator Kim, so congratulations to you.
Thanks.
I think the first question is just to help folks. I mean, I think a lot of folks here in this room are very familiar with you and your backgrounds. But if you can help us understand who was a key mentor or leader for you, an inspiration for you, a person who made a big difference in where you are in your careers today as public servants. If you could bring us back to that person, how you met, and what it was that you learned from that individual that got you to where you are today. And we can start with you, Senator Duckworth.
Okay. Mine's easy. Most people know the story. It's Dick Durbin, my senior senator. He met me when I was just a wounded soldier at Walter Reed. He came to visit all the soldiers, but what was important was that there were only 3 Illinois wounded at Walter Reed at the time. This was at the end of 2004. And it was funny because I was just talking to some folks about the fact that he came back and talked about me to his team, but never told them that I was Asian American. And Dick Durbin never saw the wheelchair, never saw the race, never saw the gender, just saw my heart and that I wanted to continue to serve. And I was adrift because I couldn't go back to my Army job. And he was the guy who challenged me to run for office and guided me along the way. He's also the guy who guided Barack Obama and started the petition to get him to run for president.
He's got a good track record.
He's got a track record, yeah, very much so.
Look, I'll be quick. I mean, I never thought that I'd do government work, but I was a sophomore in college when September 11th happened, and that's where I sort of switched my life. But even still, I didn't necessarily think I had a place here. So 21 years ago, I showed up at Union Station here, fresh out from graduating college the day before, and I was starting an internship at USAID. And I remember getting out from the train station, seeing the Capitol building, and I was simultaneously like excited but also terrified because I realized at that moment that I knew 0 people in the entire city. I knew nobody. And like the taxi systems at that time ran off of zones, and it was like everything was confusing. I have like no idea how this town's working. And it was my first boss at USAID that really gave me a sense that I could do this because I really much felt like that kind of imposter syndrome. I was like, who am I to think that I could work for the federal government? I could represent the United States. I come from an immigrant family. I come from a family of political nobodies, and I thought DC was filled with somebodies, people that had, well-known last names and really nice suits. And so I didn't necessarily feel like this was a place for me, but it was my first boss at USAID that really empowered me, really gave me this sense that I have every bit as much right to be able to represent this country as anybody else, and that's really helped drive me ever since.
I want to keep it there because you brought up USAID, and I think a lot of people have seen that agency in the news quite a bit lately because of the cuts not only to that program, but to so many federal programs across our country. and layoffs of federal workers. What are both of you focused on in terms of the agencies and your constituents, and potentially what you can do to save some of the important services that these federal agencies provide?
Yeah, maybe I'll just start off with that thread of USAID. I mean, I worked at USAID, the State Department, and the Defense Department. So I've seen the diplomacy, the development, and the defense. And it was always about trying to use all of the tools at our disposal. And what I try to always just make clear to the American people, because I had someone ask me at a town hall, like, all this chaos in Trump's foreign policy. I don't actually see chaos when I see it. What I see is a very coherent implementation of a neo-isolationism policy, an effort that is trying to basically say America first equals America alone, America only. And I just think that that is a fundamental fork in the road that the American people need to see. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in a way where we're not just seeing our allies and our partners thrown to the side, but us potentially much more weak, less prosperous. And just that fundamental difference, I think, is critical to understand about that neo-isolation. And it's not just that it's neo-isolationism, but it's spreading now to be sort of an anti-pluralism type of approach. And I think that that's where we're starting to see it, not just talking about border security, but just writ large immigration,
Tariffs,
writ large the sense of, writ large just the sense of what pluralism in this country means, as if homogenization is it means that, all of us have to have just sort of a singularity rather than being able to embrace. Like, I should be able to be as American as anybody else while still being Korean American.
Senator Duckworth, do you agree that this is a coordinated effort toward a neo-isolationist policy and administration in our country? And if you do agree or don't agree, is there a bipartisan effort? Is there anyone on the other side of the aisle who is resisting this?
So I agree with Andy, but I would add to it that there is a racism component of this that is providing a slice of the base of support within the MAGA faction within the Trump supporters. I mean, listen, not since the Chinese Exclusion Act did we actually have an immigration policy that specifically rested on race. And as we just had this past week with the granting of immigration status to white South Africans, not black South Africans, just white South Africans. So you're seeing that racism aspect coming into it as well to basically support what he's trying to do with neo-isolationism. That is a real problem. And what was the second part of your question?
Is anyone willing to work with you to?
Not right now. I mean, I want there to be, and I think they're moving in that direction in some ways. But right now, the Republicans who were willing to be bipartisan, or the Republicans who were willing to stand up to the MAGA base and to Trump, are gone. Right? Mitt Romney could not get reelected in Utah in a primary in Utah. Think that through. Mitt Romney could not get reelected. That's why he retired. And all the Republicans that tried to stand up immediately got the phone call from Elon Musk, I will drop $100,000 against you in a primary and you will no longer be senator. I think it's going to change. I think you're starting to see a little bit. Tom Tillis did stand up on the U.S. Attorney position. Hopefully, sorry? Yeah. Hopefully that you're going to see that happening. You're seeing some of the MAGA base oppose this gift of an aircraft from Qatar. So maybe things will slowly change. But right now, I can't think of a Republican who would stand up right now and oppose Donald Trump.
But I think that change really does need to come from pressure from outside, from what I've seen.
Exactly.
Like what we see with the tariffs, the reversals there, that's in large part because of the business community, those in the economic fields and others that are, really, and frankly, small businesses right now, their voices are more important than ever. So, that's why I just sort of say, because like if me or Tammy say things, there's a sizable part of the population will just be, oh, they're just saying that because of politics. Mm-hmm. But when we have, business leaders, non-political entities being able to talk about this, talking about it in a broad way, I think that's where we're going to see a lot of the pressure be able to come and create space for some of these political figures to then feel like they are not so tethered and anchored down.
Agree.
On that note, we talk about a non-political entity. That is what APAICS strives to be. It is an organization that tries to represent Asian Pacific American interests across all political identities. What would you say to the people in this room who are working in their communities at various levels about how they can empower themselves? What is maybe a priority people should focus on? Is there a single one?
I think you focus on the pocketbook issues and as a start on the economy, because it doesn't matter if you are in red districts or blue districts, people still worry about being able to afford their mortgages. They're worried about losing their jobs. You're seeing at the town halls where folks are speaking up against a lot of my Republican colleagues. It was all centered around veterans losing their jobs, veterans losing their benefits, veteran federal workers being fired, over 6,000 of them. So if you can find some of that common ground where it's about economic interest, it's about family, it's about education, you can work from there.
I often frame it in terms of stories. I very much think that politics is about storytelling. And, I often talk about how I'm the son of Korean immigrants that moved here 50 years ago. That I asked my parents, why did they do it? And they said that they did it because they felt that in America they could guarantee that their kids would have a better life and more opportunities than they did. Now I'm a father of a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and given everything that's happening right now, I don't actually think I can look my kids in the eye right now and make that same guarantee, that I guarantee them that they will have a better life and more opportunities than me. So I often frame it in terms of that sense of generational progress. Is this younger generation going to be the first generation in modern American history that doesn't have more opportunity, more prosperity? And I think that that's a theme that I think a lot of our families can connect in with, right? This idea that that's the promise of America. It's not that you will make billions of dollars and have your own rocket ship to outer space. It's that this was supposed to be a country where every generation did better than the previous one, and we are now seeing that brought into question. So I agree with her wholeheartedly, Tammy, wholeheartedly about pocketbook, about the budget. I would just say I frame it in a story. Every one of our families have a story, especially, that idea of, the American dream and that generational progress, so powerful for immigrants, but not just them. But I think that that's sort of something I'm trying to see if we can unite people around. I feel like it's working in New Jersey with the campaign. That was the main thrust of my Senate campaign, was this idea of generational progress, and I'm trying to mobilize nationally around it.
With the time we have left, is there a single piece of legislation policy that you are working on right now that you can share with us, that you are excited about, that you are hopeful about?
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot, right? It's everything from the stuff that needs to be done for me on Commerce Committee. I'm on the aviation subcommittee on the air traffic control system, growing that workforce, that sort of thing. But my priority right now, it's less than I'm excited about it. It's my priority right now is getting the veterans their jobs back, getting federal workers rehired, working on making sure that we stand to block a lot of the cuts that are coming under Medicaid and Medicare. But at the same time, I have legislation that has to do with national service that I'm really proud of, that I'm going to continue to work. It's a voluntary national service, and basically an opportunity to earn college credit and college money for serving this country, not necessarily in uniform. That would be one of the options, but you should be able to go serve. It's on the German model for Habitat for Humanity or the Peace Corps or whatever, and have a range of things. But right now, it's harder to get into a service program like that than it is to get into an Ivy League university.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was really proud that, in the House I was able to, I authored the legislation in the House that, capped out-of-pocket costs for seniors when it comes to prescription drugs at $2,000 a year, which is now, as of this year, implemented, and we can see the change that can be brought. Thank you. But I mean, look, we're in a very particular moment right now, and I think I see so much distrust in government. And I see that being one of the biggest impediments and frankly, an existential threat. I mean, what value, what security is democracy if people don't trust in them? In our home state of New Jersey, 84% of people in New Jersey believe that their elected officials are corrupt. I mean, that is a devastating number. And so, look, I push forward on legislation, anti-corruption legislation, other things like banning members of Congress and the president and others from owning and trading stocks. Is that going to solve all the problems? No. But it's trying to push into a certain direction, an understanding that the status quo of our politics is broken. and it has lost the trust of the people. And for us to be able to rebuild and reforge this country, it needs to take purposeful recognition of the flaws and the faults that we have right now. And so that's, what I'm trying to tackle, but it's hard to do it in any single piece of legislation. And frankly, it's hard to get campaign finance reform and other things when the people who are elected are really good at the game as it is now. And don't, when you're winning at chess, you don't want to switch to backgammon, right? So it's just, how do you try to get that change? And that's what's so difficult right now, but I'll keep trying.
Yeah, that goes back, the people has to force it. The people have to call for it.
And the final question I have is, what can everyone do in their community, whether they are involved at a low level of public service, maybe they are a student, maybe they are, in their local town council or on a school board. What are things that we can do? What are the conversations that we can have at a grassroots level in this community that can lead to change? Maybe you're not going to win an argument with someone in the moment, but is there something you can say or do that opens people's perspective, widens their aperture, and hopefully helps move us toward some agreement and progress and something that benefits the next generation, as is your goal as in public service?
Well, I do two things. One, I would encourage you to run for public office in some way, serve in some way, go to the city council meetings, go to your municipal meetings. If you can be on your local library board of trustees, because by the way, that's where the book banning is taking place, those decisions. It could just be at your local elementary school. Do something. Show up at those in those venues. And then the other is when you're in those venues, say to the people there who may not be on the same side as you and say, you know what? I believe you love this town, city, municipality, country as much as I love this country. And I know that we're looking at the problem from different perspectives, which is why we have different answers and solutions. But let's figure out a way to work together to find a solution that we can both accept.
I would just say two quick things. One is find a community for you to exist within. You cannot fuel and sustain the level of attention and engagement if you're just running off of fear, running off of anger, running off of optimism. You really need to find a group, whether that's Students Demand Action or Moms Demand Action or other types of groups that are out there. I think that's key, and I think doing it alongside other people that are like-minded. Like I would not be where I'm at today if I didn't have a small cohort of young public servants that we came up together and we encouraged each other to stay in the fight and do different things. It helped us along the way. The other thing I'll just say is push yourself. I've often said this line, if you're only having comfortable conversations in politics, it means you're not talking to all the people you need to be talking to. This is inherently an uncomfortable world, an uncomfortable job, an uncomfortable pursuit. So, push yourself. If you're finding yourself at a place of comfort and stability in politics and in discussions, push yourself to go a little further, do other things. I remember this one woman came and she was like, I've never knocked doors before. I never made phone calls before. I've never done any of this before. And I was like, well, I never ran for Congress before, we're all trying new things, right? And you'll find, that kind of tolerance as you go forward, but those are the two best pieces of advice I can give.
So I heard show up, push yourself, and lead with grace. And on that note, let's put our hands together for Senator Duckworth and Senator Kim.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.